Shalom Aleichem, friends of the Sephardic congregation of Hallandale. In this week's parasha, we have many civil laws. In fact, this week's parasha is the primary source of civil Jewish law. And I would like to pose the following two questions. Firstly, there is a notion of the spirit of the law. And the question that I'd like to pose is, does Judaism recognize this notion of spirit of the law? That's the first question. The second question is that if such a notion of spirit of the law does indeed exist, then the question is, well, what is the spirit of the Jewish law? What is its character? What is its nature? In Sefer Dvarim, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verses 17 and 18, it states as follows: Shamor tishmerun et mitzvot Hashem Elokeichem. You shall surely guard the mitzvot of Hashem your God, ve'edotav, and his statutes, ve'chukav, and his laws, asher tzivach, which he has commanded you. So it says over here, Shamor tishmerun, you shall surely guard the mitzvot of Hashem, his laws and his statutes, asher tzivach, which he has commanded you. Va'asita hayashar va'tov be'enei Hashem, and you shall do what is straight, what is upright and good in the eyes of Hashem, leman yitavlach, in order that he will do good for you. Uvata v'yarashta et ha'aretz hatova asher nishba Hashem lavotecha, and you will come and inherit the land which Hashem has promised to your forefathers. So there are two verses over here. The first verse says, you shall keep the Eidot, which is the laws, and the Chukim and the statutes. And the second verse says, and you shall do what is upright and good in the eyes of Hashem, in order that you will inherit the land of Israel and come into the land of Israel. And the question is, if the Torah is already stated that one should keep all the laws and statutes, then why is it necessary for the Torah to say you should do what's good and upright in the eyes of God? Isn't that the statutes? I mean, surely the laws and the statutes of Hashem, of God, of the Torah, are what is good and straight in the eyes of Hashem. So why the two verses? What is the purpose of the second verse? What does the verse of Asita, you should do what's upright and good in the eyes of God, what does that add? Once we're keeping all the mitzvot, surely we're already doing what's good and righteous in the eyes of Hashem. There is a fantastic Ramban. The Ramban, the great 13th century scholar, has a fantastic insight over here. And he says as follows. He says that it would be impossible for the Torah to detail every single law that applies between man and man, and also every law that applies concerning societal governance. It would be completely impossible to detail every aspect and every law in the Torah. However, the Torah gives us an idea. The Torah gives us certain laws, and the Torah then says in summary, what is the nature of these laws? So the Torah first says Hashem says you should do all the laws. But I want to tell you what is the summary of those laws. In other words, what is the spirit of the law? The spirit of the law is Va'asita et hatov vayashar b'nei Hashem Elokecha. The summary, the content, the essence of all the laws of the Torah is to do what is good and straight in the eyes of Hashem, and we are supposed to learn from the laws and statutes that the Torah gives, and how great, awesome, just, and compassionate the laws are. From those laws, we are supposed to learn the essence, which is to do what is good, to do good, and what is upright, what is honest. In other words, justice and kindness. That is the essence of Torah law in a nutshell. What is upright, what is straight, what is just, and what is good in the eyes of Hashem. That is the summary That is the spirit of all Torah law. And because every detail explained to the Ramban could not explicitly be mentioned, because it would not be possible to explicitly mention every detail, we should apply the principle, the content of the law, the essential content of the spirit, to all other life situations. This is what the great Ramban, the great 13th century scholar, explains in Sefer Dvarim on these psukim, on these verses. The Ramban goes one step further, and the Ramban explains. There is a Gemara, he quotes a Gemara in Baba Metzia. I'm going to explain another Gemara in Baba Metzia which is very similar in content. The Gemara says as follows. Let's say, for example, I owe somebody money, God forbid, I owe money and my home is foreclosed on, God forbid. Then what happens is the person that I owed the money to, he forecloses on my home because I cannot afford to pay his debt back. He had a lien on my home, so he takes possession of my home. And then what happens is that 2 years later, I come into funds. I approach him and I say, Chaim, you took possession of my home 2 years ago. I would like to now buy my home back. Please, let me buy my home back. Chaim says, listen, it's 2 years later. I get great rental income from this home. I don't want to do that. What is the law? We go to the Beit Din, we go to the rabbi, and we ask the rabbi, what is the law? The rabbi has to say, says the Gemara, the Torah law is as follows, that he is obligated to allow me the option to buy back my field when I come into funds at any time. Why? Because of this pasuk. V'asita et hayashar v'atov. You should do what's upright and good in the eyes of God. An amazing thing. We see from here, says the Ramban, that this concept of the spirit of the law in Judaism is not just a nicety. It's not something that you have to go above the letter of the law. On the contrary, it defines the law itself. Torah law is defined by what is good and righteous in the eyes of Hashem. So to answer our initial questions, yes, in Judaism there is a concept of the spirit of the law. That spirit of the law is defined by doing what's good and upright in the eyes of Hashem. In other words, justice and kindness. That is the spirit that surrounds and envelops all Torah law, is based on two things, justice and kindness. That is the spirit of the law. And what the Torah is teaching us is that the spirit of the law is the law. It's not something extraneous above the law. Many people today are focused purely on the technicalities of the law and forget about the nature of the law, what the purpose of the law, the inside of the law, the lifnim mishurat hadim, the inside the line, the inner lining of the law, which is these two concepts of kindness and justice. And we as Jews need to work on not just observing the actual laws, which of course are divine and we're supposed to, but we are supposed to be focused on the purpose of those laws, to instill us and to help us create a world filled with justice and kindness. And please God, it should come soon in our days, the coming of the Mashiach, when those two values will be amplified throughout the world. Shabbat Shalom.